Feng Shui Shoes. Today we're going to talk about that, lovely ladies, my beautiful super soul sisters. Thank you again for joining me. And this is all about creating the space we need to have in order for the new to come in. So, as we all know, we are living very, very busy lives. Whether you are a mum with kids and full out racing around like a headless chicken, being a soccer mum and doing everything and being everything to everybody but yourself. Quite often, this is not an uncommon scenario. Or it could be that you are a career mum, so you've now also got the business that's on top of it, and then you've also got maybe that you've got that and now the relationship's broken up, so you've now got that on top of that. So we go into complete space of overwhelm. Now remember, what I was talking about yesterday is what you focus on you get more of. So what we want to try and do is, even as uncomfortable as it actually is, we want to start focusing on what is going to start working for us and what isn't, and how to create space for that. So how do we put on our Feng Shui shoes in order to be able to go, look, okay, I'm going to biff out this. I'm going to take out that pair of shoes that don't work for me. I'm not going to have that pair of shoes in my life anymore. I refuse to wear my parrot shoes that keep going like this in my ear and telling me to do things differently and be different and to look different and to be superwoman and everything, when quite frankly I'm not all the time. And you know what, that's absolutely fine. I mean, so what, sod it. If you don't like it, we get to the place, I would love to have it, where we all get to the place where we can say, my shoes, my path, my way, and if you don't like it, cheerio, nice knowing you. So how delightful would that be? That is just such a place of empowerment and freedom, and also gives you a sense of balance as well, which a lot of us beautiful lovely ladies actually need. So this gives us an idea of getting clearer. I hope you're starting to find this throughout the channel and in the group, where you're actually finding that these little exercises, these little steps that you take, hopefully every single day, actually are making a difference to your life. Where you can go, when I first started with Vicki Jane, I couldn't see the wood for the trees. I didn't know what was working for me and what wasn't. I didn't even know what shoes worked for me. I didn't know what shoes weren't working for me. I didn't even question the shoes that I was forced to wear and why I was being forced to wear them. And are those shoes actually out there that I actually want? Now we're starting to go, do you know what? I am so overwhelmed. I'm wearing far too many different pairs of shoes. I'm not comfortable in X, Y, Z. Those ones now need to get biffed. So we take them out and we threw them away into the rubbish bin, hopefully never to be seen again. Haha, how delightful would that be? So yes, once you start doing that, it creates a vacuum for what we do want to come into our lives. And I have to say that this is actually quite uncomfortable sometimes, and I just wanted to give you a heads up that it can make you feel a little bit wobbly, and that's okay. You need to be all right with that. So I had this conversation actually with a lovely lady just not that long ago. And in fact, I've even had it myself, because, I've been transitioning into doing all of this. And I want to be able to do this where it's more of a full-time thing rather than a sideline hustle, and where it's going to become the mainstay that I can actually change people's lives across the world, as many women as I can possibly reach, with your help, by sharing this video and other ones too, please, and asking them to join and be in the Facebook group. But now, when you first start in that, you are standing in your little soapbox doing your little thing, and you're going, I wonder if anybody's actually going to notice. Now, my little shoes was getting brave, being my little Xena warrior, and I'm standing up on top of my little shoebox and I'm going, okay, everybody, this is, what's worked for my clients, and is what worked for several people over the years, and this is how it can actually help you. Yes, we are starting to gain traction, but to be courageous enough to actually do that is really kind of out there. And I would love for you to be able to also get to the point where you are actually able to take the step onto that other path. So you kind of, at some stage, you kind of need to have one foot in one path and one in the other. Sometimes, in order to be able to moonlight until such time as you can go on your path, your way, doing what you want. But sometimes it does require getting rid of the old clutter. So we were talking about the Lipton shoes, about toxic people that are in our lives, toxic shoes that we have been made to wear. Which ones are they? Actually get real clear about what's not working for you and get rid of them. Have the courage to go, I can't do, I'm not interested. So I remember a really interesting scenario. This was years and years ago in Zimbabwe. There was a lady who was married to quite a domineering man. I was quite young. I wasn't really consciously aware of it back then. I mean, I knew he was quite tough. He used to make the kids eat everything. They came from Holland, I understand, and they I think he must have gone through the war days or something, because he literally would make them eat every single thing on their plate. Like, he ate the chicken bone, like literally ate the chicken bone, and I was like, holy smoke, who does that? But the son was not allowed to leave the table until all food, like he wasn't into peas, and he was forced to eat peas, and he wasn't allowed to leave the table, not even to go to the toilet, until he'd eaten those peas. And I remember he sat there for like 20 minutes the one time, and I was like, oh my God. I always took very small portions to make sure that I ate everything, because there was no ways I was going to have that subjected to me. Anyway, it was quite interesting, because they landed up moving to America, and he landed up taking off with another lady, and this poor woman was left in the scenario of, having been a full-time mum, now suddenly not being a full-time mum. And I'm pretty sure he didn't pay any maintenance for 4 of their children. He took off with someone, I think he had 9 kids or something. Anyway, it was not a great scenario. And of course, she was way out of her depth. I mean, there was a whole bunch of, these are working shoes she had never worn before. She's in a country she'd never been in before. She's now suddenly got to support 4 children. And so she was having to put on a whole bunch of shoes that she never had considered wearing before. It was incredibly uncomfortable. And yet, by the same token, the blessing in it is that she got rid of that guy, because he really wasn't, obviously a good guy. He wasn't a great guy, ditching his family like that, especially in a foreign country like that, and leaving them to fend for themselves. I remember their kids having to, be janitors at the school and stuff just to pay for their school fees. It was really quite out there. And so those are a whole bunch of shoes they had to wear. They didn't choose to wear them. They had to wear them. And getting rid of the toxic environment, sometimes it's a conscious thing. It's like, how do I do that, Vicki Jane? How do I put it on a pair of shoes? Like, maybe let's say the scenario might have been, if we put a bit of a slant on it, where she may have gone, do you know what, you're too toxic for me, I can't deal with you anymore, and for the sake of the kids, I've got to step away from this, and I've got to take the kids with me. And yet she's never worked, so she's got to biff the toxic, which would have been him, and all the rhetoric and everything that would have probably have gone with it, that I was never aware of, but obviously must have been happening. That went with it, and actually in a much better place because of it as a result. But how do you make that work? Yes, it can be incredibly hard, and sometimes it's incredibly scary. Like to if you think of I think of the tarot card of I think it's the Fool, and he's standing on the edge of the cliff, and it looks like he's got to take the leap of faith. You've got to sort of jump out there, and what's that saying, if you jump off the cliff, and it'll the wind will give you the wings that you need to actually make you fly. And if you think about little birds, the mums actually push them out the nests and make them fly. Well, sometimes we actually have to do that. So in Feng Shui terms, our Feng Shui shoes is actually where we are consciously initiating that change. And having then we've got to have our our Xena shoes on, and our stand-up shoes on, and all of that where we've got to get tough. We've got to tough it out. We've got to sometimes dig deep in order to push through the discomfort of the uncomfortable zone. But if we do not create the vacuum to begin with, then that's the issue. And this came to me in my meditation doing this kind of stuff for you guys, where it was I kept meditating because there was a particularly a challenging, shall we say, a challenging client who was absorbing a very large amount of my time in my other business. And we consider the Lipton shoes. You get my message. And it was really affecting how I was feeling just drained and exhausted after having had any sort of form of interaction and everything with him. Anyway, so the long story short of that is I had to make the decision. Am I going to, try and tough it out, given my husband's situation with him having been unwell? Or do I biff it and just take the leap of faith? And that's what I did. And I have to say, I'm absolutely terrified, if I'm really brutally honest, because, you've got to earn the same amount of money, if not more, because, you've got to earn what I earn plus my husband's salary, just until he gets well again, at least. And here you've got the scenario of if I get rid of that toxic pair of shoes, what kind of impact does that have? Now, I'm not telling you to be irresponsible. Please don't misconstrue this. Don't adjust it and distort it. Remember, I was telling you about twisting and distorting information in order to be able to make it fit your story. Sometimes you have to be practical about this stuff, and you just have to go, right, I'm going to tough it out until I've got X, Y, and Z. So I've got this with one lady at the moment, where she has a particular goal that she has to achieve financially before she feels that she is strong enough to move on. And it's not from a toxic relationship, it's just to be able to take the next step in her business. So, whatever the case might be, but, wearing it, digging deep until that actually is happening, is going to then be able to create enough of a vacuum space for her to fill it with time generating this new business that she actually needs. So that's, totally logical. So get Feng Shui about the shoes that you now need to start getting rid of is really what I'm saying. I mean, you've started identifying, these are the shoes, I like to wear. These are the shoes I don't want to wear. These are the shoes I choose to wear even though I don't like to wear them. These are the shoes I was forced to wear. I definitely don't want them. My Lipton shoes, what toxic people are around me, what toxic environments, be it work, be it, my society, my culture, whatever the thing is that you want to change. Now's the time where you got to go, right, we're going to do a big clean out of that cupboard, and we're going to start getting rid of that, and that. And we're not letting them back in. We are sticking them in the jolly rubbish bin, and we're going to just hoof those suckers right out the back door, and we don't ever want to see them again. Okay, so make sure that you are also psychologically in a space, ideally by getting support in the Facebook group if you haven't already joined, with like-minded members, and doing my emotional techniques that you've got now if you purchased, and have them in your handbag so that if you have a little wobble now that you've done a big clean out, because you will, I mean, it's uncomfortable, I'm telling you now, I'm going through it myself right this second, where it's like, well, I hope to goodness everything works out, and people support me and people will share, hint hint, but yeah, you get the idea. But whatever it is for you, it's like, it's like riding that bike again. It's like learning how to ride. It's like, oh, you know what, I'm not comfortable, this is not comfortable, I don't want to do that. Don't go back, don't go and get those old shoes, don't put them back in the cupboard again. You just don't want to be doing that, because you're just going to repeat the same old, and unless you do something different, nothing is going to change. So look, you tell me if you're brave enough to put on your Feng Shui shoes, okay? How about you pop a wee comment in the box below if you're watching on YouTube, or if you're in the Facebook group and you're one of my Super Soul sisters that have already joined, please do share what you're going to now get rid of. You don't have to go into any big depth, but if you're brave enough to say it, fantastic. You might even want to put out a video. Ooh, imagine that. And post that on the Facebook group saying, do you know what? This was my toxic environment. I quit my job, but I'd listened to Vicki and I remembered that I had to be responsible. So I made sure that I had another job to go to before I actually did that. But I'm really glad, because that was a toxic environment. You don't even have to give details. Just say. And there's benefit and healing in doing that, because then it gives other people the knowledge that they're not alone, that they're also going through the same thing themselves. We are all having to do Feng Shui of our closets, ladies. We all have to do it at some stage with something, and it's just life. We've got to work out what we want to keep and what we don't want to keep, what we do want to have in our closets and what we don't, what shoes we do want to have on, in order for us to, be brave enough to wear them and then to get us onto those paths. So sometimes you actually have to do a conscious clear out with your Feng Shui shoes on, saying, I'm getting rid of those little suckers now. Okay, tell me what that is. I'm very interested. Okay, namaste. Have a great day.